Rich Tarani with TMC. Thanks for watching us today. We're in Boston, Mass, and we're meeting with a number of companies here. Lots of interesting news that we're learning. And on our program right now is Noah Rafalco, who's with TSG Global. And Noah, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Excellent, Rich. How are you?
Good. So I was hoping we could start at the top. Tell us a little bit about the company, what's happening.
Sure. TSG Global, as you know, we've been in business for quite some time supporting infrastructure plays for text messaging enablement of normal phone numbers, the existing phone numbers, and also providing voice services to enterprise and carriers. Since then, we've also dove into some applications that we support on our network and love to get into the trenches with them and help them out.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about those applications.
Sure. One of them is called GreenBot, and GreenBot is a solution that basically just lives in the cloud and allows anybody to put texting on their number now, and that includes 800 services, and allow them to absolutely capture the messages. So no longer do they have to download an application. They don't have to port their number to a specific carrier. They can just say, hey, I want my number text enabled, and hey, throw a conversation on there for me so I don't miss any more text messages.
So you quoted a stat a little bit earlier. Hopefully it's okay to ask you on camera. There's a tremendous number of 800 numbers that are becoming text-enabled, right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it 10%? Was that the number? Did I remember?
Actually, in the first quarter of 2014, 250,000 toll-free numbers were text-enabled just in the first quarter.
Wow. It's a nice number. So once they're text-enabled, so if I'm watching and I've got a business 800 number and I want to text-enable it, what's required of me then once I've done that?
All you have to do is really sign a simple piece of paperwork, just like telecom. You sign an LOA, a letter of authorization. It allows, GreenBot or TSG or another provider to text enable your number. But the GreenBot solution actually, like I said, it adds that ability to instantly have what you need on there to converse with whomever's texting into your number.
Now, how does the company access those text messages?
That's a great question, Rich. Thanks for asking. What I have found in my own personal life is that browser-based access points are the easiest. So when we were developing some solutions ourselves, what we found is why not just push it to the cloud, make it easy, make it accessible. So creating a cloud-based access point to interact with your customer and be notified that there's a cloud-based transaction or conversation happening is really what we focused in on. So the flow would be, I'm texting into your 1-800 number. Instead of it just landing on the floor like it does today and you not responding, it would just ask you a series of questions to engage you. So it might say, thanks for texting. What's your concern? Is it sales related? Is it a complaint? Is it a frequently asked question that you're looking for? And then walk through a simple transaction of automation at first. So the system, the bot, will start collecting data for you, being the business, before you engage with that consumer. So you have the series of questions, and then it might say, so would you like to have a live agent chat with you right now? What happens at that point? The system on the back end sends a simple delivery notification link, either email or it can send it to API-driven access points like Google Hangouts and Slack and such like that. And you can engage into the conversation just by clicking that link and starting to text. It's all browser-based.
And it could be on a phone.
You can engage from any mobile device that has internet access.
So it would be very similar to text messaging phone to phone, except in this case, there's some intelligence that allows you to do some screening without having to do it manually each time.
Right, and you could actually use it as a service to pre-qualify. So in other words, let's say you're a sales organization and you only want sales to come through to a live agent, right?
Sure.
Well, then through the conversation, you can define that if they say, yes, I'm interested in buying something, that it triggers an event in the system to send out that notification to your sales team.
So I'm just thinking, the interesting thing here is that, and you talked about APIs, but if you know your customer history, if someone has a repeat, or if someone is in your database with their phone number, in theory, you're gonna have that phone number, so you could actually do a database dip, and you could pick up who they are, and you actually could theoretically handle your premium customers differently than you would handle other customers, right? So you could have them go to live agents in theory, right? They can just check to see, are they a top spending customer? If so, go directly to a live agent, and then other people can get queued and they can figure out what to do with them, right?
Absolutely. That's a great point.
A concierge service.
Like a white glove kind of treatment. And it's an interesting point how you made that difference. You actually pointed to something very important in how you take on messaging as a whole. And how you need to take it on is, how do you get it into your CRM? How do you make that call? How do you make that determination? Well, there are systems inside your house right now that are your CRM tools that tell you that that customer is the highest customer. So how do you leverage that? Well, the beauty of GreenBot is you can connect it directly to the CRM.
Great.
So all those information texts that they're sending in are actually being captured into the CRM.
Excellent. What else should we know?
Well, you should know that the most important thing that people should be compelled to do today is not allow text messaging to hit the floor. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't get a phone line installed and not plug in your phone. You want to answer your calls because it might be a business call buying stuff from you. It might be a customer complaining that will cost you money if they leave that engagement and go tell their friends.
Right.
So how can you leave a text message hit the floor? It's just as simple as picking up the phone.
Concern could be that they'll go next to Twitter and just publicly berate you, which happens quite often.
Well, and on a final note, that's a great point. The systems that GreenBot has created is allowing for social media interconnectivity too. So whatever you can use your thumbs to do, and that includes social media. So let's say a company has a Twitter account. Unless you have somebody sitting there tweeting all day, what happens if it's after hours? Are you going to have somebody tweet back after hours? Well, the beauty of GreenBot, it has time of day routing. So basically, if you're off the clock and you still want to get something going, what the system does is says, hey, wait, we're not here right now, but we still want your information. Would you like us to text you back?
So, no, I have one concern, and that is education about people not being comfortable texting 800 numbers because they don't know that they can. How does that get overcome?
Well, really, people are texting 800 numbers. And an interesting fact that we found out from a major provider recently is 18,000 of their people were texting into their customers' toll-free numbers to the tune of 18,000 texts in 1 month. And then we asked, well, what are you doing with those texts? And they said, nothing.
So maybe that's a generational thing. I mean, I just knew that from going back, years, decades, that 800 numbers don't accept texts, right? They didn't historically. So I assume if you grow up in a texting generation, you just assume the world revolves around texting and all the phone numbers are text enabled. Kind of like where I've now heard stories where 2 or 3-year-olds will go to a TV and try to swipe it to change a channel.
Right.
And wonder why it doesn't change channel. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like in their brain, probably every phone number should receive texts.
And they are.
Yeah. Okay, so that I could see that then. So, but I think that might still be a generational thing where some people may not know that.
And that's a great point. Imagine a business. Are you only going to sell to an older generation, or are you looking to sell to all generations?
Right. And I would imagine like an Abercrombie for sure would be like one of the first kinds of companies, like the companies looking for that demographic. An Old Navy Gap should definitely be among the target customers. 16 Handles, the yogurt chain. But yeah, I guess the different age groups may not, some of the older ones may not text as much.
You're right, and you'd imagine that being the case, and it's an interesting story because my mom's an older woman, and she didn't pick up an electronic device until maybe about 2 years ago, and still then she didn't pick up a phone, and she certainly didn't use texting. As soon as she just engaged in texting recently, she calls me all the time saying, I wish I could just text in to change my appointment with the doctor. Yeah. I wish I could just text into the pharmacy.
I have an aunt where I would have expected her to never embrace technology, and she texted me, and I almost fell over. So it's amazing to me. And I think some of the newer smartphones have made it so easy now that everyone is able to text.
Yeah.
And so your service, it seems like you're well positioned.
Well, I mean, if you look at an application layer, if you look at voice and SMS and then every other application that's out there, whether it's Candy Crush or whatever those applications are, right? You'd imagine that, if I asked you what's the number one and number two application in the globe, you'd probably pick something like email or, voice is pretty obvious still. People still use the phone. But the second top application globally in every single country still is SMS.
That's great. And that's probably not even taking into account how much of the market has gone to Snapchat, WhatsApp, and Apple's iMessage, right? And still Absolutely. SMS is huge.
Well, we deal with carriers, so one of the statements I make is about WhatsApp. There was a huge article done about carriers not paying attention to the buyout of a $1 billion buyout of WhatsApp. Well, that's a problem considering it is in the telecom space. So they came in, took a new technology, embraced it faster than traditional telecommunications companies, and made out like bandits.
That's right. So on that note, thanks so much for being here today. This was great.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks.